Hello, everyone. Welcome into today's webinar, Getting Started with Python, presented by expert technical instructor at New Horizons, Tom Payne. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I will be assisting and moderating today's session. We are in Zoom for today's webinar, and we will be emailing you a copy of this recording after the session with you. We do encourage participation throughout the session, so please use the chat or that Q&A option for our short dedicated Q&A after the presentation. New Horizons and Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Tom.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Glad you made it in. Let's talk some Python. I've been teaching coding for over 2 decades. Python, I didn't always teach Python, but when I did learn Python, I fell in love. It is my favorite language, and it is so powerful. Let's talk a bit about it. We're going to discuss the building blocks of Python. We'll talk about some hands-on examples of some things that we can do with Python. We'll also talk about how Python is really one of the emerging techs, and it helps us do machine learning and AI and pretty much any modern task that you might want to do. Python is one of the most popular languages. So let's talk a little bit about the core building blocks. First of all, Python was originally invented by this super geek over his Christmas break. At least that's where it started. And this super geek guy, Guido van Rossum is his name, he decided, you know what? Computers, the command prompt commands are easy to learn, but not very powerful. And programming languages are really hard to learn. They're really powerful, but they're really hard to learn. I wish there was something that was easy to learn and really powerful. And so that's where the Python programming language came from. If you want to use Python, you can. It's free. Anyone can get Python for free. All you've got to do is go download it. Now, if you want to code Python, it will work. One of the benefits of Python is that it can work on a Mac, it can work on a Windows computer, it can work on Unix and Linux. It is pretty good at working across all the platforms. If you want to work with Python, you've got to get it though. One of the most popular ways to get Python is to download something called Anaconda. If I download Anaconda, anaconda.org is a website where you can go and download. It includes Python, and it includes a couple IDEs. Those are the tools that we want to use to help us write code with. It includes a bunch of packages and libraries that can do AI, that can do data science, that can do all sorts of cool things. So the Anaconda download is what I would recommend. So if I go to, let's see if I can find the download for us. I'll send it in the chat window. If you go to Anaconda's download page, they want you to sign up. So, I encourage you to support their mission. If you want to just skip the sign up, you can go to the Anaconda download success page, and you can download and install Anaconda on any computer as long as you have permissions, right? And once you've downloaded and installed Anaconda, it comes with a Python engine that runs all the Python code for us. It comes with some IDEs for us to work with, comes with a whole toolkit, a whole slew of tools for us to work with. Now, I've already installed Anaconda on my computer, but as far as building blocks are concerned, that is one of our core building blocks. Anaconda comes with all the building blocks that we need. So to install Python, you could install it from python.org, but if you get the Anaconda bundle pack, it comes with Python and a bunch of other cool things. So that is what I would recommend. And you could do this right now on your home computer. You could do it on your work computer if you have permissions, but download and install Anaconda. Let me show you what that looks like. Hang on one moment while we get there we go. If we get Anaconda installed, then we can see that there's an Anaconda prompt and an Anaconda Navigator. And Jupyter Notebook, that's what I'm going to play with mostly right now. If I open my Anaconda Navigator, don't mind all this stuff. It'll pop up a a bunch of the tools and help me find things that are included in the Anaconda bundle pack. But the main thing that we want to work with is this thing called Jupyter Notebook. That's what I'm going to do some demos. Jupyter Notebook will launch a little engine, and this little engine will then launch a tab in your web browser. And this tab in your web browser allows you to find Python code, or we can go in and start new Python files if we want to. Python notebooks in here. So the Anaconda Navigator takes a little while to load up sometimes, but my Anaconda Navigator is now loaded up. And I'll just show you that the Anaconda Navigator comes with the Jupyter Notebook tool that I'm going to use. There are other tools that you could use to code, like Spider or PyCharm. PyCharm Community Edition is another tool I could use to code my Python. Now, just take a quick step back. Every organization on the planet exists to deliver value. And if your company can deliver more value than your competitors, then you'll thrive. If you can't deliver enough value, then you'll struggle. Just think Blockbuster Video, Sears, Kodak, companies that don't keep up, that don't deliver enough value, they struggle and they end up going away. Now, Python can help us deliver more value, right? Because we can use a computer to do anything that we really need to get done. So let me give you some examples here. When we install Python, we have to choose a development environment. And the IDE, the development environment, consider if you're writing something in English, what tool would you use? Probably Microsoft Word, maybe Google Docs, maybe you use some other word processing tools, Notepad or whatnot. If you're writing in English, Word, Google Docs, that kind of thing. If you're going to write something in another language like Python, they have their own tools like PyCharm and Spider and like what Google Docs would be is kind of similar to what Jupyter is. This Jupyter Notebook is kind of like a web-based IDE. So I'm going to do a few demos. And when I do my demos, I'll do them in Jupyter Notebook. So since we want to deliver value as an organization, if you have humans do certain jobs for you, that's great. That's sometimes what you need. But sometimes humans are slow. Humans call in sick. Humans, we have to pay them hourly wage. So if it takes a human an hour to do a job, that I could write a Python script and it could happen instantly, basically for free, versus paying a human $25 to do that job for me. As an organization, the humans are now freed up to do things that aren't easily automated, right? So, you know, and the humans who you do pay $25, $40 an hour, $30 an hour, whatever amount you're paying them, if you give me better tools, I can produce more value to help the organization. Now, another thing that we need a lot in order to deliver maximum value is to make good decisions. And how do we make good decisions? Well, if we have good information, we can use that to help make a good decision. Python is very good at helping us make good decisions. So there are libraries. One of the reasons Python is so popular is because there is a whole community of other programmers who make really good tools. And most of the tools that people create in Python, they're willing to share with us. So a lot of these tools like TensorFlow and scikit-learn, these are AI and machine learning tools. And if you get good at these tools, I'll give you an analogy. If you were a grocery store and you are, trying to compete with all your other grocery store competitors, margins are razor thin for grocery stores. So if you order too much milk and you don't sell it all, milk expires. What do? You dump the old milk. That's value that you're dumping down the drain because you ordered too much. So don't order so much milk, right? Well, then if you don't have enough milk, your customers come to your store, you don't have milk. What do? The value in their wallet walks out the door and goes to your competitor. So too much milk, values dumped down the drain. Not enough milk, values walking out the door. If you get just the right amount of milk on the shelf, then you'll maximize your value. How do you know how much milk you're going to sell? Well, maybe you got an old time manager that's been there for 30 years and they know a Thursday in December when the weather looks like this, we need this much milk. Well, if that old time manager retires and now it's your job to order milk, how do you know how much milk to order? Well, if your store has been keeping a data record of all the milk sales, you can either like try to study the data and figure out how much milk you need, or you can use Python with tools like TensorFlow and scikit-learn. And scikit-learn can look at your milk sales and say, oh, a Thursday, early December with this weather, you probably need this many gallons of milk. It can help you make the best decision and probably even do a better job than that old time manager was doing at getting the right price, right? Another example, one time I had to sell my house and my wife and I had a certain price we wanted to get. And we talked to several realtors and most of them said, yeah, it's a little too much. So we found a realtor that finally said, yeah, I think I can sell the house for the price you want. Guess what? It was a disaster. This realtor priced the house the way we wanted it priced, but nobody came to look at the house. It did not sell for that price. And so we ended up missing an opportunity to sell the house because we didn't have it priced right. Imagine if my realtor, instead of just being dumb and saying, yeah, I can do it, if my realtor had had a database with Python that looked at the data, they would have known that, no, this is probably the best price that you need. So with the right tools, Python can do these kinds of things, help us figure these kinds of things out. So here I am in this tool called Jupyter. This is a Python IDE, and I can start coding some Python here. Now, I do have some example files that we might work with here, but yeah, let me go in here. I'm going to create a new Python 3 notebook. And Python is a programming language that we can use to code, whatever we might need, right? Super powerful, can do all sorts of things. And it's pretty easy to learn. Like, for example, if I just need to do some math, Python can do math. Look, if I say 4 times 5, Python knows that's 20. Now that's easy. That's not anything all that fancy. But if I need to track something, I can ask a user. Like, for example, I can say, let's take some user input. And we're gonna use a tool called input to ask the user, what is your account balance, right? And again, if I'm a bank or something, that might be a normal thing to ask. So now if a user types in their account balance, oh, I've got $356 in the bank. Now that Python knows the user input is 365, we need to turn that into a number. So I'm going to make a variable called balance that equals a numeric version of the user input, right? Now this balance is a number that I can start calculating. So instead of just 4 times 5, I could do something like, hey, let's take my account balance and double it. So if I do account balance times equals 2, that will double my account balance. And then we'll print out a little message that says something like your account balance is now, and I'm going to plop in my account balance right there. All right, so I'm hoping that as you look at this, this is almost something that even if you've never used Python before, you could maybe figure out what's going on here. There's a few words that are weird, like what does it mean, float? Float means it's a number with a decimal point floating in there somewhere. So I could have put a decimal point in my account balance. Now, my account balance doesn't look like money. So if I want to make it look like money, I can put a $sign, and there's a little code lingo I can do to say .2. That means 2 decimal points on there, please. So now my account balance doubled again. If I run this code again, my account balance doubles again. So every time I run this code, my account balance can double. Now, that's just one example of like getting some data from a user and being able to work with that data and do some calculations and print out a nice little report of here's what's going on. So Python can do much more in-depth data analysis too. Python comes with some basic capabilities, but then there's this whole community of developers who code all sorts of other capabilities. Now, when this talks about installing libraries and frameworks, a library, if you're not a programmer, a library is a place you go to borrow books. Who wrote the books? Someone else. Did you have to write it? No, you can go borrow something written by someone else. So in code, a library is code that someone else wrote that we can borrow. Now, when we install Anaconda, if you install Anaconda, we get essentially, let me bring up one other little window here. Give me a moment. Sorry, I'll get there. I'm going to bring up a command prompt window. And at a command prompt, when you install Anaconda, you can use a tool called pip. That's a Python installer package. And we can find out with a pip list what tools did Anaconda come with. And we'll find out on this pip list, let me zoom in on it, that there is a bunch of packages that we have already installed here. Now that isn't exactly what I expected. My list is weird. Why did it do that? Pip list. All right. At any rate, there are packages that come built into Anaconda. One of the packages that come built into Anaconda called Pandas. Let me show you on this slide. Pandas sounds like a cute bear, a panda bear, but Pandas actually stands for panel data. Panel data is like tables, rows and columns of information. So when you're at work, chances are you either have spreadsheets that have a lot of corporate information on them, databases that store a bunch of corporate information on them. What Pandas is a tool that can open tables, panels of data, spreadsheets, tables from your database, and we can load those in to our code. Now, remember, we're trying to make good decisions. If we want to make a good decision, we might want to look at the data and try to understand what the data is telling us. So what we can do is import Pandas, and we'll import it with a little shortcut as PD. And once we import Pandas, this is one of the things that comes in the Anaconda bundle pack. Now I can use Pandas to read different formats of data. I can read CSV files. If I scroll down, I can read from a SQL database. I can read from an HTML page. So if there's some website that has a table of data that I want to load it into Pandas, I can, right? In my case, I'm going to load a CSV file. And then I just need to point to a CSV file, which on my computer, I've got several CSV files. One of them that I want to show you is tips.csv. And what this will do, and I'm going to load this into what we call a data frame. So I'll call it DF. So this little data frame is now a Python thing that contains all of my tips. So if I type DF here, we can see this is a panel data that I've loaded into Python. So we can see now there's, this is like if I were a waiter or waitress, here's the total bill. Here's the amount that the user tipped me. Here's information about the user, who they are, when they came, here's their name. And if I want to find out like, hey, what's the best tip I ever got? Well, in this data frame, this table of data, there are, if I scroll down here, you'll see there's 244 records of somebody tipping me. 244 times that we tracked this information. Now, if I want to find the highest tip, look, I can see somebody here tipped me $5.92. That seems to be the highest tip I ever got, right? Well, not necessarily, because this ... means there's like hundreds of rows that too much to display right now. So with Pandas, I can go through and I can say, okay, data frame, what I want to do is I want to find um, my, let's see if I can remember what the function is called, n largest. The n largest function tells me that tell me how many you want to see and then tell me what column you're interested in. So look, there is a tip column and I'm interested in the top tip I ever got. So I can say the one largest tip that I ever got. That's what I want to see. And it'll show me, look, somebody tipped me $10. Gregory Clark. Thank you, Gregory. Or instead of just the one largest tip, I can say, show me the 5 biggest tips I ever got. And here they are, $10, $9, $6. Right? These are the people who tipped me the most. And, they had a big total bill or whatnot. So what percentage? Is that really a good tip? $10 might be a good tip, but if it was a $200 meal, then $10 is pretty lame for a tip. So if I want to know, like, hey, I want to know based on the percentage of the tips. Well, I can go into my data frame and I can create a column of my own called the percent column. And the percent column, what do I need to do? Well, I need to go into my data frame and grab, is it tip amount divided by the total bill? You got to know your math. I can take my tip amount divided by the data frame's total bill column. And if I did that right, you know what? Let's multiply it by 100 because I want it to look like a percentage. If I did that right, now if I look at my data frame, I have a new column over here called the percent column. And so, I can maybe now see who gave me the best tip, not based on the amount of the tip, but based on the percent. That's what I want to know. So I can come in here and do the same kind of thing. All right, data frame, I want to see the n largest and I want to see the 5 best tips, but not based on the tip amount, based on the percent. Now, that percent column didn't exist in the original data set. But now I can use Pandas to kind of analyze the data, calculate some things, figure some things out that weren't in the original data. So now is Mr. Clark's really my best tipper? Look, the $10 tip doesn't even show up. My best tippers based on percentage. Look, somebody tipped me a 71% tip. Larry White. So, hey, maybe that $10 tipper isn't my favorite customer after all. If I'm a waiter and I'm trying to decide, oh, which table do I want to take and which table should my coworker take? If I know who the best tippers are, hey, I'll take Larry's table because I know Larry's going to give me a good tip, right? I'll take Melanie's table, right? If these are regular customers, I can start coming in here and figuring like, yeah, a $4 tip wasn't one of my n largest tips ever. Wasn't one of my top 5 tips, but it was a 41% tip. That's a good one, right? So I can analyze data using Python. And, that's just a little example. Again, I need to know how much milk I should stock on a Thursday in December, right? I can go look at the sales history data and I can do some calculation and figure some of this stuff out. There are also tools where I don't even have to do most of the calculating. Like let me go back one slide real quick. This tool, scikit-learn, I just need to tell scikit-learn, hey, here's some data and here's what I'm trying to predict, right? And over the past however many years, here's all the sales and here's how many gallons of milk we sold. And I'm trying to predict how many gallons of milk we're going to sell tomorrow. So I can go in and feed in tomorrow's date, tomorrow's weather, and then the machine learning tool will look over all my past data and be able to predict how much milk we're going to sell. And again, it's probably going to be a better prediction than even my old time manager who's had 30 years experience can handle. Oh my goodness, time flies. We are running out of time. So let me just tell you, Python is so powerful and it is somewhat simple. It is easier to learn than C++ or Java or other programming languages that exist out there. It is super flexible. It's very good at data science, very good at AI, very good at machine learning things. They've got a bunch of libraries that exist out there that can do websites for you. They can do graphics, they can do games, they can do data science and AI tasks. Um, Python is super powerful, super capable of all sorts of powerful things. There are some books out there if you want to learn more. Python for Data Analysis by Wes McKinney, right? That is a huge book that is one example. There's hands-on machine learning with scikit-learn. So if you want to learn how to do pandas better, how to do scikit-learn better, there are books out there and you can go read about it. But let me tell you, we also offer classes. There's an intro to Python class that will get you started. Then we have a Python for data science, specifically how to take data and turn it into useful information. I didn't even show you a chart. We could take all that data and make a bar chart or a line graph so that we can see a trend, or we can make a pie chart and know who's the best salesperson. There is all sorts of amazing things that Python can do for us. Man, that went so fast. Thank you so much. I wish I could go on for hours on this. I love Python. And if you can get Python involved in your business, in your organization, what you're doing, you can deliver more value than your competitors who are just relying on old-fashioned manual techniques. It is so powerful. I encourage you to look into it deeper. If you have any questions, throw them at me. Otherwise, thank you for attending. I had fun. I wish I could do it longer, but we gotta be done. Thanks, everyone.
Of course, and thank you so much, Tom. This was a lot of fantastic info. I'm sure our audience has lots to take away from today's session, and I did want to let them know that if they needed any more additional info on this topic, they can absolutely visit us at newhorizons.com or click on that link I shared in the chat. But I believe, oh, and we're getting a bunch of thank yous and great sessions, so I think that this really resonated with our audience. So I will go ahead and give everyone 2 minutes back. So thanks again, Tom, and thanks again to our amazing audience for joining us today. If you missed out on any part of the session, we will absolutely be sharing a recording with you via email after the webinar. But besides that, I'll let you all go. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and thanks again, Tom.
It was fun. Take care.
Bye now.